Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. I've got a lot of feedback on last week's podcast, and you know, always keep that coming. It's always a great thing to hear and know that the messaging that we're putting out there is relevant and helpful, and so continue to do that. A few announcements I want to make before we kind of jump into this week's podcast is one, many of you have been waiting. Financial Evolution is now out. So get your copy. And it's not just a promo. You know, the work I do, anyone who's spent any time with me knows I'm extremely passionate about the type of work I do. And Financial Evolution really came about of sitting back and watching thousands of meetings. I mean, I was doing thousands of meetings, and one day I was just like, look, everyone falls in 5 categories. And when I figured out exactly how to get them out of the next category or where they needed to move, you know, one day I just said, this has got to go in writing. Like, people have got to hear this. I mean, one of the greatest things books do is people can share their experiences with you, right? Successes and failures and other people's failures. I mean, if you can read about someone else's failure before you actually make the same mistake, then that would be wise to do. So when you read about, you know, Financial Evolution, it's going to give you a lot of strategies. I know it will put you on the path of what you want, which is really what people want, is time and money. I mean, in fact, most of you started probably listening to this podcast because you were like, man, I hope this guy can show me how to get more money, which will give me more time. And so Financial Evolution really does do that. It really talks about how to do it strategically. And it talks about financial advisors and why the information you've been given is so incorrect. And in fact, I'm pretty blunt in the book that the information you have been given is really to make them wealthy and not you. And we've got to be careful in that. And I'll kind of just jump right in off there. It sounds like a good jumping off point. This idea of, you know, financial advisors understand the stock market. They understand, you know, bonds. And I always tell, you know, in stocks, I tell people, look, financial advisors' number one job is to prospect. Understand that. That's their job. There are financial analysts, but the number one job of a financial advisor is to prospect, to go find new clients. And, you know, anyone who, you know, you guys should know at this point, I'm a very positive person. I believe that people are trying to do well. And I think that there's a place for financial advisors. But I want to talk about a place where financial advisors don't belong, and how does that affect the most recent epidemic and pandemic, and how has that affected a lot of people. Recently, a financial firm put out that the PPP loans should be put on hold. And so when you have the ability to apply, you should not apply for these loans, and that you should hold back, and you should try to manipulate the system and try to hopefully you could hold on and then use the money later and pad your books and not, you know, not utilize your team at this point because there's nothing they could be doing and all these things. And you know, right away, I was on the record saying that's ridiculous. And in fact, I said, you know, these are financial advisors. We don't let financial advisors tell us how to run a business. That they have a place too. And you know, my knee surgeon has a place, but I don't let him do my root canal. I mean, what ends up happening is we have allowed people who are not in the profession to start making decisions. For instance, we've allowed a lot of accountants to help us make financial decisions, even though they did not go to school for business. They went to school for taxes and expenses. And so what happens is, and I've been pretty, you know, firm on this podcast about this, is, and it's one of the messages I've stated very clearly. You got to make sure you know where you're getting the information from. And so these people who their number one drive is to get you to give them investment dollars, convinced so many dentists that they should not be utilizing this loan because there's no reason to utilize it. And I said, that's ridiculous. If you understand what your team should be doing this time, you should be expanding when everybody else contracts. The reason this loan was put out there was for the reason of getting people back to work, right? So we don't want to, we get upset when other people, you know, misuse the system, but then all of a sudden now we had all these people, we're getting advice to literally manipulate the system, which there's some ethical concerns with that too. And we don't know what the forgiveness parameters are of the PPP loan, but this whole idea of holding off and not utilizing your team is not good business strategy. I mean, hear me, it's really poor business strategy. And, you know, within like a week, all the funding for the PPP loans was gone, by the way. And now they're talking about trying to get another second round of funding. And I found it interesting. This is not a beat up on anybody, but I want you to kind of hear this from an objective standpoint. And it is like, I need you to think about it objectively as a business owner. And by the way, this large financial firm had to write an email to all of their clients contracting their advice. And basically going back and saying, we made a mistake. We did not know. We should not have said this. And so they had to eat some pretty big humble pie. And I thought to myself, well, of course they did, because you took your business advice from financial advisors, which that's not what you do. You don't take your business advice from financial advisors. And by the way, I'm very clear on that. I'm not going to back away from that statement. I would say what financial advisor was right in front of me. Now, I've had my investment licenses, insurance licenses, and a lot of other things. So I understand, you know, as well as being an MBA, I understand the approaches they're using and utilizing. And they're great people, by the way. I'm not beating up on anyone as an individual. I'm talking about where you get advice. Now, I think knee surgeons are probably great. Orthopedic surgeons are great, but I won't let them do my endodontic surgery, right? Or endodontic treatment. So I think it's really important for you to understand that when we start thinking about building wealth, we start to think, look, because right now, and I want to we kind of went off on a little bit, on a negative spin, but I'm going to bring it back positive for you, because I want you to think about it like this. So, all right, now that we understand we got to stop listening to financial advisors for our advice. By the way, I'll say one last thing. One of the things I've been very avid about on this podcast is do not put money in 401ks. I've been saying it over and over and over and over again. There are times when you put money in 401ks, but it's like the last resort when you have nowhere in your business to put money, because I said one of the number one needs, first of all, you can blow by it like 10 times in your business. Second of all, number one need of a business is access to capital. That's why people go bankrupt, is they don't have access to capital. And so we had these doctors that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their 401ks, and they were trying to get access to it. And eventually we finally got some access to some capital, but you don't want to have to go beg the government to get access to your money, not theirs. And the measly little percent that they give you back in return, by the way, to lose complete control of your money and to defer taxes, which means that you assume your tax rate is going to go down, which that's a really bad assumption. That means over 30 years of work with an advisor, they can guarantee your income is going to go down. That's not great, sound financial advice. And so there's a million reasons why I've explained on this podcast why that's wrong and why 401ks do not make a lot of sense for business owners, okay? Now there are times, but that's kind of outside the scope, but it's really when you've maximized every investment within your practice. But even then, I would probably find other places to put it besides a 401k where I can get a much higher return. Losing equity. There's kind of an MBA statement, which is, debt is more risk, equity is more expensive. Well, equity is expensive because it has an opportunity cost, because you can actually put that money somewhere else. And when you lose access to that capital by giving it to the government, as a business owner, you're saying you don't think you can beat 5-6% in a business that's doing 30%? Are you kidding me? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So that you can guarantee your income's going to go down. So we have to be careful about those types of things. And so now, okay, so let's look at this as regards to this pandemic. And by the way, you'll be able to listen to this 6 months from now. Go back and listen to this 6 months from now. Like, put a date on your calendar and go, hey, 6 months from now, I'm going to go back and listen to that one podcast. I guarantee you the stuff I'm saying right now is just as relevant whether we're in this pandemic or 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now. I don't care if you literally go on your calendar and put 5 years from today and you go listen to this podcast, it's just as relevant in 5 years as it is today. Why? Because fundamentals don't change. Mathematics don't change. The truth is the math will be the same in 5 years as it is today. Now, what has changed is the marketplace. So one of the things I've been really encouraging doctors is saying, no, get your team back, because you guys have to overly communicate with the marketplace. You should be overly communicating with the marketplace right now. You should be calling all your patients up. You should be doing everything you can to communicate with, whether it's Facebook Live. The average person spends 4 hours more on Facebook right now per day, whether it's paid marketing, whether it's getting training done so that you can handle the phone calls. I was like, there's so much work to be done. What do you mean people are sitting at home? We have work to do. I said that 2 podcasts ago. Look, we've got work to do. Well, now we're probably, for most of you listening to this, it doesn't matter where you are in the country, you're probably, within a week to 3 weeks away from being open fully. And my encouragement today wasn't to get off on a tangent about financial stuff, but I think it's worth, putting out there. But to say, look, what you've got to do right now is you've got to get all over communicating with the marketplace. I had someone reach out to me this week and I said, Eric, I got a text message from my doctor, and it says I've got a hygiene appointment on the 22nd of May. And what she said to me was this. She said, so what does that mean? Why don't you hang that with us for a second? What does that mean? See, texting isn't good enough right now. People are scared. People don't know if you're open. That's why you're getting emails constantly on a daily basis, like if they're opening up, how they're going to control things. So what's going to end up happening is that doctor's office is most likely not going to call her. And so she'll have to call them, right? She'll have to say, hey, I've got this appointment coming up. Is it safe to come in? Now the question is, are they ready to handle that phone call? Are they really prepared to handle that phone call? Do they know how to handle that phone call? And if you mess up that phone call, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go somewhere else. And by the way, that means in the marketplace, there's going to be a lot of patients looking for a safe place to come. And by the way, that might be you. If you train your team. See, this is why I'm not, now kind of circle back. That's why I wasn't a big fan of holding off on your PPP funds. We've got training to do. We've got to teach team members how to pick up that phone. We've got to role play that language. We've got to be reaching out to patients, explaining what we've done to make it safe. We've got to be communicating with the marketplace while we're the safest one in town. We have to be able to put daily communication out to the marketplace. We have to be prepared, whether it be PPE or for capacity needs. If you have communicated well, you're going to have an issue, which is there's going to be a lot of people wanting to come in. Plus, you've got a backlog of probably a month and a half of patients. So you have to open up capacity, which most doctors won't. So see, when I looked at it from a business standpoint, I just couldn't even wrap my brain around why anybody would be sitting at their house and not be getting people back to work. I was like, do you have any idea? They're giving you 2.5 months of comp. What do you mean you have nothing for them to do? And so my clients, thankfully, have really gotten all over that. But there's a lot of people that listen to this that aren't engaged with Tower Leadership. So I care about you too, and I want you to hear what I'm saying, which is, you've got to, right now, if you don't feel like you're the best business owner, it doesn't really matter. Right now, I need you to engage with your team. You've got about 2 or 3 weeks. And for most of you, I guess you could be in a state that will take longer, but for the most of you, you got, some of you, by the way, I know some states are going back to work next Monday. So maybe when you hear this, you'll already be back to work. You have a very short window. Now, if you listen, to my advice 3 weeks ago, maybe you'd already done that. Maybe you did already do that. Maybe you put things in the marketplace. One of the best things that somebody said to me last week, it was last Tuesday, I had a doctor say to me, Eric, the things you were saying 9 months ago are still true today. And I think I even mentioned that on the podcast last week. Look, that's true because what I'm telling you is the truth. What I'm telling you is reality. What I'm telling you is fundamental to business. That's why we bring in business advisors when we have business conversations, because there's fundamentals of business. And if you're not educated in those fundamentals, how can you teach them? So when we allow people to give us advice that aren't in that segment, we tend to get a bad result. Just like if I asked a knee surgeon or orthopedic surgeon how to give me a root canal, I would probably get a bad piece of advice. Now, it doesn't mean that person's not a good person. Orthopedic surgeon might be the pillar of the community, might be the nicest person you've ever met, might be caring, kind, trustworthy. It doesn't mean that they're not any of those things. It just means they're an orthopedic surgeon, so I'm not going to ask them about endodontic treatment. Does that make sense? And so It's not beating up on anybody or saying that anybody is not a great person. It means that we've got to be careful where we get information. And so as you're listening to Dental Wealth Podcast, I need you to hear me and realize I'm coming to you from a business and financial aspect. I've had all my licenses, or so many of my licenses, I should say, that I understand where they're coming from. I also have an MBA, which means I do study business. I analyze businesses, but I'm going to come at you from basically how to take a business and do amazing things with it. Make it so it runs by itself, i.e. getting the time you want. Make it grow and be profitable, which is i.e. the money you want. And then we hold on to it and we put systems in place that allow it to run without you. So that this idea is, and that's why we have to, when I tell you to take advantage of the marketplace and things, that there's going to be timing of that's so paramount to take advantage of. So I think it's really important at this time to hear a message and this is the message I want you to get from today. I want you to hear the message to go to work. There is a lot of work to do. If your office is not totally open yet, I need you to get going. There is a lot of work to be done. If you don't know what that is, reach out to Tower Leadership. I'll be more than happy to help you in that direction. But there's a lot of work to be done. Also, I want you to download wealththatwins.com. I want you to go to wealththatwins.com and download Dental Wealth. If you have not read Dental Wealth at this point, you need to, because it'll give you a framework for what I'm talking about as you listen to these podcasts. Now, I've made the ebook completely free. And it's on my dime, and I'm more than happy to pay that for you because I do care and I want to invest in you. Wealththatwins.com. If you go to wealththatwins.com and you can download Dental Wealth, I need you to get your copy in your hand. I need you to become a student of business and finance. And in that book, I created a way for you to understand it. So in a sense, I am giving you some homework to do, but it's for your growth. Look, I don't do this for money. I do this for purpose and passion. And I love you guys. I really care. I want to see you guys do well. I want anyone listening to this podcast to do well and be tremendously successful. So I appreciate you listening this week. I hope you've got your mind in check and you've turned down all the negativity in the marketplace and you're ready to kick butt and take names and go to work and turn off your, the Facebook and all the stuff. Hopefully you've turned off some news over this time and you're ready to get back at it. But guys, it's time to get back at it. It's time to get back at it. It's time to get back at it. And appreciate you tuning in. Keep your spirits up. Look, you're going to come out of this, and if you do it right, you come out of this and you put the right steps in, literally your revenues will be no different at the end of the year than they were going to be. And in fact, they can be a lot higher because there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So take advantage of the opportunity. If you need some help, reach out to Tower Leadership. We'll be more than happy to help you. You want to get get your homework done, go to wealththatwins.com, get your copy of Dental Wealth. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. Hey, this is one of the things I talk about to people is, hey, it's really important for us to be students and to invest in ourselves. Hey, this is even free. So invest in yourself, be a student, kill it, take advantage of the marketplace. You guys are going to be awesome. And have an awesome week. Subscribe, like, and share. Appreciate it, guys.